right, welcome everybody to ACIM Talks. I'm Reverend Jim White, and I'm here every Monday night from 7 to 8 for some deep dives into A Course in Miracles. Sometimes we don't know where Spirit's taken us. We've covered a lot of Course in Miracles material, but we've also covered a lot of related A Course in Miracles stuff. And I think just the wide span of our studies have deepened our appreciation for A Course in Miracles and the understanding that there's only one truth. And so we were talking about how many versions of A Course in Miracles there are, or how other spiritualities might say how many other versions there are of them, whether it's Hindu or Buddhist or Course in Miracles or Christianity. All of practice from a certain perception and understanding are different versions of only one truth. And we are fortunate and blessed, I believe, because we're starting to see it everywhere. And when you see something off the pages of a book everywhere, it indeed is quite compelling in confirming what the book said, right? So we're in gratitude that our eyes are being opened wider and wider and wider. So with that said, why don't we get into our agenda tonight, unless anyone has any questions or comments before we go on? Good? You feeling good?
Yep.
Yeah? All right. Me too. I brought some music tonight. So let me share screen and get on with our mood enhancer for the evening. It's called How Can I Live Without the Lord?
How can I live without the Lord? How can I live without Him? How can I live without the Lord? How can I live without Him? God gave His Son for you and I. His Son hung His head, decided to die, just to save a soul like me. God gave His Son, who gave His life for me. How can I live without the Lord? How can I live without Him? How can I live without the Lord? How
So I'm in a good mood. I'm ready. How about you guys?
I'm ready.
Yeah. Do you know Stanley Johnson?
Stanley Johnson?
Yes.
No. I know a Johnson in my town that's been a Course in Miracles teacher for a very long time, but
Well,
not
what-
Stanley.
Okay, well, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with A Course in Miracles music, right? I mean, in terms of genres, to me, it's more out of the Black Baptist Church. It's the music I grew up with as a kid and young adult. Some call it praise and worship, but none of you should necessarily know this Stanley Johnson.
Nope.
He's just a local musician. He's kind of when you see him in appearance, he's like a one-man band. He's got his keyboard and he sings and his accompaniment with him. And he happened to be performing at an apartment complex. I'm sorry, I lived in an apartment complex, and just adjacent to it was a building that put on events and concerts. So it was a free concert one night during the summer. So I just ran over, and it was Stanley Johnson. He was doing secular music, but he also had a CD, something about my revelations or something. It was spiritual. And some just said, don't just buy the one he performed for, pick that one up too. And it came to me kind of like Debbie Miller's CD. That was the wrong CD. Are any of you here following me or know what I mean about? So as I look back on it, it was a series of coincidences from that music CD given to me with the musicians from Master Teacher's Place in Wisconsin to music and things like that. And at the time you think it was at random, but then you see, oh man, you were given the gifts and the resources all along the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you have misunderstood his plan, for he would never bring pain to you, but your defenses did not let you see his loving blessing in every step you took. You thought it was something else, but it was the means to a goal, to achieving a goal, you see. So isn't it nice when you can not only have 20/20 hindsight, but when you also develop 20/20 foresight and you stop thinking these things are coincidences, you start to pay attention to everything that goes on.
And 2020 insight.
That's what I was just going to say. And all of that goes into 2020 insight.
Precisely. So you're able to be always grateful because you're always seeing pieces of your prayers being answered and coming into place. And so where is room for despair when you can see your dreams coming true? It's quite miraculous, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They have come true for me even before I knew to ask for them.
Correct. It's like my cup is not only full, but it's running over. It's even bringing stuff I forgot to ask, but that it all comes as a piece for my best, you see. How fast does it come? According to your willingness. It's a perfect reciprocal, you see. All right, that's my speech to get started. Any comments, suggestions, my friends? All right, then you're ready for our study for the evening. I guess I know you all have copies. Would you prefer to use your copies, or would you like me to put 12 steps and ACIM comparison on screen share? What's best?
I would like it on screen share.
Screen share is good?
Yeah.
All right, so why don't I do that? And then we'll get our readers assigned here. I think I've got it down here. There you go. And we left off, well, we're on page 10, but just to maybe lead into it, we should start on at the end of page 9, okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
So Kathleen, you're reader 1, then Joan number 2, Dee is 3, Sweetie is 4, and I'll be number 5 tonight, okay?
Yep.
All right, Kathleen.
Sure. What we attempt to do in A Course in Miracles is to place you in a situation where you will make the admission that you are in deep fear and that the problem cannot be solved. Obviously, an alcoholic mind is aware, and at a very early stage of his career of sedativism, that he is in a great deal of fear, and he cannot, for the like of him or the death of him, understand why associations or how associations are able to deal with this incredible slaughterhouse of purposelessness of the world in which he finds himself. In that sense, he is different. He seems to have been born in the wrong time. The Course in Miracles uses the term later in time to identify him. Do you understand?
Stop there, Kathleen?
Sure.
That may be a good place, and see what your comments are so far. Anything stand out that you want to share?
I would like to share something.
Yeah, sweetie, please.
I'm trying to find, well, the first sentence of what we attempt to do in the course, because you will make the admission that you are in deep fear and that the problem cannot be solved. Obviously, this is the next line that I want to talk about. Obviously, an alcoholic mind is aware at a very early stage of his career of sedativism. And I'm not sure what that exactly means, but that's all right.
Wow, are
That
we in sync? I was just gonna ask what that word means. And so the same thing you're asking, right, sweetie?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that while you're under the influence of alcohol, you're always in a sedated kind of state. You're addicted to the sedation.
Yes.
And that's but it's really only a guess. I'm not really sure. I never saw that word used in the 12 steps at all,
No.
or in any related, readings. But
Well,
what I wanted to say something else, that he is in a great deal of fear and cannot for the life of him or the death of him, understand why associations are able to deal with incredible, all the purposelessness of the world in which he finds himself. I just wanted to point out something that when I was watching the previous ones really struck me. Often when I forget the man's name, the master teacher that wrote this,
Charles
but anyway,
Anderson. Charles
Anderson.
Anderson.
Yeah, Anderson. When you're dealing with people in a 12-step program, a great percentage of the time, you're dealing with, like myself, like anyone else that might be doing the course that's also doing AA for a long period of time. We are no longer in that feeling of purposelessness. We have found through the spirituality of AA, and usually what then pushes us to come to something like the Course in Miracles is the 11th step, because we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God.
Wow.
And that's what brought me here. And that's what brought anybody that I know that's as in AA first and then came to the course. That's usually what they're at. In other words, they're beyond the beginning of I'm years into not having, I haven't had a drink. How dry am I? I haven't had a drink in 46 years, that kind of thing. And some of our other friends that have come here, without naming names, have long periods of sobriety.
Yeah.
So they're no longer in that beginning stage of the terrible despair that you do feel when you come here. So I just thought I'd point that out, how often. So every time he writes that way, like we're still in that purposelessness, despair, often we're not anymore. We were, but aren't anymore. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot said, and I really appreciate it. Again, I've not done any version of 12 steps per se. So thank you for that. And I'm going to ask others for comments too, but you said a lot of people move to A Course in Miracles through step 11.
Exactly.
And step 11 says what again?
Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him.
Okay.
Praying only for knowledge. Well, anyways, that's the part of it. That we're always seeking. We come to, and we come to believe again in our lives, maybe, or maybe believe for the first time in God. And we get to believe a lot, but we're always looking for other ways to shore that up, to improve it. And the course has done that for me, because I had a lot of trouble with, my religion of childhood, etc., was Catholicism, and I was more confused than anybody, and I had a big defense against it. I thought God wasn't there for me. And so now, so even with everything the 12 steps were teaching me, the block that I had was stronger than that. The course took me out of that.
I see. Very insightful. I appreciate what you're saying. Any other comments for Sweetie or comments on this paragraph we tackled?
Well, for those of us that the course came first for me before I was in a 12-step program, I could relate to this statement.
Okay.
That A Course in Miracles is to place you in a situation where you will make the admission that you are in deep fear and that the problem cannot be solved.
Yes.
Well, I agree with Dee there, but in a little offshoot of it, the reason 11th step pushed me out of the 12-step program into something different. It didn't push me out of it, but it made
Right.
me know I needed to seek more, was because I was particularly blocked and I knew it. And so what I was getting at, I think when I said about you're often talking to people who have long-term spirituality, but are looking for a better kind of spirituality.
Mhm.
And usually we're not in such great fear, but it's a wonderful thing to discover something that breaks through that block.
But is it not also the case that you find out you were in fear whether you knew it or not? If you were
Absolutely.
in a state of
That's why I
denial
say it. Yeah, that's why I agree with you to a
as to
great
the
degree.
real source
Yeah,
of the problem, you see?
yeah, yeah. Now
Yeah.
I can go back to AA meetings and say, oh, that's what they were saying,
Yeah.
because the course straightened it out for me.
Yeah. 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 Very good. And you see through all of this, uh, we've not been abandoned. There was no need to fear. There is a plan. I got you. But the ways that I use, you were unable to see because of a certain indoctrination to what you thought things would be like and look like and how they had to come about and judgments, right?
Exactly.
And to me, the statement was in the first sentence, make the admission that you are in deep fear and that the problem cannot be solved the way you're going about it.
Yeah.
It's going to call for a turn in direction. It's another approach. And then to me, that goes back to if you want to solve all your problems, know thyself. How long have you heard that being preached? This thing you think you are, you're not. But if you would just embrace what you are, it would take care of everything. So being forced, if you will, into letting that go, simply because it doesn't work because it cannot work. So let it go. Comment.
I think this is true for all of us because I think, I mean, we don't have to have an alcohol problem, addiction. I mean, to me, the human condition is an addiction to the ego.
Yes. Yeah. And closing that out at, boy, the sentences aren't numbered, but it says, in that sense, he is different. Speaking of the alcoholic in this case, is that what it's? He is different. The alcoholic seems to have been born in the wrong time. The Course in Miracles uses the term later in time to identify him. And then Charles says, do you understand? Do you see where I'm reading?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you understand what he's saying? Why does the Course say later in time?
I don't remember it saying that, to be honest.
I don't remember it saying that either. I'm just taking Mr. Anderson, master teacher's word for it. And if you were asked to propose an explanation, what would y'all offer?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
Oh, okay.
And basically, if you go on to read the end of it, I think basically he's saying the same thing, but using different terminology.
So help us out, Kathleen. What do
Well,
you?
well, if you go on just go to page 9, but he says, he seems to have been born in the wrong time. The Course in Miracles uses the term later in time to identify him. Do you understand? The more fearful, the later in time, the more fearful the association is, the more he has determined that the problem cannot be solved under the circumstances in which he apparently finds himself. That's a statement of fact. So basically what he's saying is, Course in Miracles saying that he was born later in time as opposed to being in the present. And the other one is he was born in the wrong time as opposed to being in the present. And in the present, and basically what both of them are doing is bringing you to the present where you see the where you can be open enough to be awoken to what is already there.
So you're saying your closeness to reality, to speak of it in linear time? In other words, if you're in the present, that's the closest time-based term there is for reality.
Well, your big R.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The big R, not the little one. The other two are making reference to the little R, little reality.
Well, let's talk about what's the big R and what's the little R, Kathleen.
Well, the little R is the illusion that is the illusion. And the little R for me, and I can only speak for me and my interpretation, the little R for me is that I'm living in the addiction, and my addiction happens to be with food. So my little reality is I'm giving my power and giving my power over to ego in both instances by listening to the little reality as opposed to living in the moment and letting the big R in reality, letting spirit or my higher power being in the moment and open to hearing what my higher power has to say.
I would, seeing if I can dovetail onto what you're saying, think of it this way. It's like thinking backwards. The smaller your little R reality, the bigger your big R reality becomes. It's crushing, minimizing your reality so you can see the big one.
Yeah.
The big R reality. So if it says A Course in Miracles uses the term later in time, it means that more time has accrued, right? More time has been allowed to accrue if it's later in time. So if you only have a little bit of time, how close are you to big R reality? D.
I'm still clueless what point he's making. Again, I really don't see the point that he's making.
That's okay. I'm not sure that I do, and I'm not sure it's necessary, but this is ACIM Talks, so we're meeting our goal, right? It's a short bar, right?
Maybe maybe more will be revealed as we read on. I don't know. At the moment, I don't get.
So, yeah.
I also think all of this is going back to our perception, is reading the words and hearing what we're saying and interpreting and intuiting what we're hearing from the place where I'm coming from. So
Yeah.
this is what I need to hear to bring me to a higher level. And this is how I'm rationalizing it, where everyone else is looking at it and saying it in another way, so that it's bringing them to the same realization.
Or maybe, and it's not so much or, perhaps I should start with and. We will be given what we need,
Yes,
what we're ready
Yes.
for.
yes. That
So that's why its impact may appear to vary
exactly.
according to our readiness, right?
Right. And you can relate that back to your albums that you picked up along the way. You know, it's the same thing. It's how you pick up what information you need to build the platform so you can go to the next plateau.
And when you said albums, you're referring to
Oh,
music?
yeah, you can tell how old I am.
Huh?
Your CD.
Yeah.
You knew what I was talking about.
Sure. But boy, we were on that one a long time, right? We got time for more though. Next, Joan. Do you see where we are? So how it works? Oh, you have to unmute, Joni. Sorry. Have to have you unmute. There
Okay,
you go. Thanks, Joan. Sorry
okay,
about that.
thanks. I didn't realize that. Okay, so how it works then is a continuing practice of the initial encounter where you asked for help and received it. You asked for the help of a power greater than yourself as a transcendent necessity, having discovered at last, through your own futile rummaging of your mindless misappropriations of the love of God, that the problem could not be solved. This is literally the teachings of A Course in Miracles, the continuing practice of the experience of that instant. It's an exciting reality for the 12-step program people and for those of you who are working the program of A Course in Miracles to discover that on a continuing disciplinary basis, if you work this program, you will awaken one morning and discover that the program is working you.
I'll say amen to that.
Uh-huh.
Other comments? Anything else? Yeah, I'm good with that one. But what do you think?
I am too. I say amen to that one
Yeah.
also. That was
All
kind of
right.
my point when I said that my prayers are answered before I even know to ask them or know
Yes.
what I want.
Yes. Yeah. It's so,
And
for
just
me,
yeah,
it's
just getting
so
to yeah.
spooky.
Yeah.
It's like a fairy tale that became true. Like there really is this invisible friggin' communication, and its powers are amazing. All right, I'm done. Anybody
But I was
else?
just going to say what with Dee stating that you know her prayer, what's answered is before she even asks the question. But
Yes.
maybe so that you can get to that place, spirit is putting it in your mind to ask that question so that you then can raise to what you already know, but you don't know at that point in time.
Right.
Right. I think of it more as a desire or yearning that I don't even know that I have, but
Yep.
it's been put there for me.
Yep, exactly.
And the other consideration that comes to mind that may account for the methods is that we think in a linear way.
Mm-hmm.
So a kind of natural prioritization becomes important if things are to work for us here on level 2. I have, in order to do it, probably the first step is I do this, and then I'll do this, and then if they're ready, I'll do this, and then if they're ready, I'll do that. There's a certain structure, a linear structure for receiving that simply because of the illusion itself.
Mhm.
You can't give any more than they can handle. All right, that's what I have to say on that. Other comments, my friends, ladies? Then our next reader is D. Let's see. Did we reach so how it works, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joan just
Yeah.
read that.
Yeah, that was a nice, easy one. We all get that. So next up, D.
This
Please.
has happened to a lot of us, and this is a practice of the discipline of getting up in the morning and sitting quietly with the AA 24-hour book or the course workbook and intentionally attempting to contact God and feeling the peace that emanates from this. And in many senses, being able to deal with problems of the world, which you were not heretofore able to handle. And certainly that is progress.
Yeah.
The idea that conscious contact can continue and bring about a result that is literally miraculous each moment and will change your life and the world you apparently inhabit is the whole purpose of A Course in Miracles. Certainly, it begins with some form of fundamental admission of your own unmanageability. Let me remember, I did not make myself.
Comment? Well, maybe we should start with the boldface print. I mean, you must have wanted us to notice that. Let me remember, I did not make myself. How is that? Some sort of lesson or something?
Well, to me, what that says is, I can say, I could say, let me remember, I did not make myself. Therefore, Kathleen, you are not in control, nor can you control your life.
Yep, that's what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, me too. That my unmanageability is unmanageable because I've been trying to do it on my own.
Yep.
And you're not on your own. That is a significant flaw in your plan.
Right.
Separate heavens can't work. No matter how much you wish they did, but it may not come to that, how much you wish they did. Well, yeah, I guess it does in the end, but at first you may not even be aware that that was the problem, separate heavens. I mean, it looks like such a big and magnificent project in and of its own. You never think it could be trivialized. It's not real. So it took a while to occur to you. All I'm saying is there are a lot of folks that never occurred to them until they got an AA that was the problem. Self-concept. That you were in charge, that you made yourself. And you say, well, I didn't think that wasn't my motivation, but deep down, that's where all of this is coming from, to think, listen, remember, you didn't create yourself. You're not in control. You're part of something bigger. than your little old separate heaven. I mean, it's not said in an attacking way. It's simply objectively separate heavens are trivial because they're impossible. They're vague imaginings. So no offense about it, but sorry you did not make yourself. So sorry, please. What do y'all think? I'm liking Charles, master teacher.
Uh-huh.
Comments? Then we're up to Sweetie.
Okay,
Page 11.
who can determine, or is it determinable when you walk into meetings, your readiness to really hear what the 12-step program teaches, or your willingness to share then with these associations your mutual helplessness? All good 12-step program teachers understand that you come together in a meeting to share your inability to deal with the world and the recovery from addiction that you have experienced through this conscious contact with God. This is what all Course in Miracle groups should be. This is indeed what the workbook of the course is designed to bring about.
What is the workbook of the course designed to bring about?
Your conscious contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? Because we know it works because we reached out and something reached back. And it was good and felt good and carefree and joyous and happy and hopeful, not hopeless. It's an amazing experience.
Mhm.
Any other comments?
It is an amazing experience after all the failures I had of trying it on my own,
Yeah,
trying life on my own.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So are failures a good thing, bad thing?
They're a blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you'll either get the blessing straight up or the blessing in disguise. Or you could say you'll either get a direct reward or you'll get a lesson that helps you with the next. You can't lose.
Mhm.
Now, is that a joyous turnaround for a 12-stepper who comes in total desperation and despair to even embrace the idea to come out of to admit the hopelessness of their manageability?
Mhm.
From despair to potential extraordinary joy just through glimmers of this different way of seeing yourself and what you are. Know thyself, right?
Mhm.
Boy, that's back to Greek and Plato and comments. Anything else? So it's my turn here.
You know, I think that's such an important point, that know thyself, because, you know, I can remember when I realized, gee, I really don't know who I am. I've been busy critiquing and meddling in everybody else's business and having a judgment about everybody else. And that really kept me away from knowing myself.
It was a defense against the truth.
Absolutely.
can't blame you for that. Everybody will, with an ego, would try and do that. It may last a long time or a short time, but if you got an ego, that probably will occur to you. But now we see it was merely a defense.
Well, we were taught to prune our egos that way, to use them that way.
Yes, which was the ego's way of making sure you'd stay locked in.
Yes.
And
Your defenses did not let you see the blessings in every step you ever took. It was always there awaiting you paying attention.
And I think that's the uniqueness of the 12-step program and the meetings and the sharing that goes on. And that's the uniqueness of our group that we have every morning, where we go and we read the lesson and then we discuss it, is that you don't get caught up in your own mind. You hear other people who could be thinking the same thing that you're thinking, or else they're talking about seeing it differently.
I agree. And it's always good to start out with a clear view of your day, with an objective look at what you need to be more diligent about, or simply diligent about. So we don't get confused with the habitual routine and carve out room all the time to get your head on straight first as you go out into your day. Any other comments from you or about what I'm saying? Or Kathleen was saying?
I like what Kathleen said in that, yeah, we process it together, just like here. And by hearing different views, it wakes me up to realize maybe I really don't have it. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just stuck in my own views if I don't process with anybody else.
Yeah. Just as an example, I was in OA probably for 5 years until I really realized that it was a spiritual program.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it went right over my head. And then one day I went, oh my God, this is truly a spiritual program. Yeah. And now because I came to that awakening, now when I read it and I hear it, I go, oh yeah, it is. Yeah. It just like flipped everything for me.
Right.
Well, my problem with that is, it didn't take me very long after I came into AA to say to myself, oh my God, you're going to have to go back to Mass. And I had let go of that. That did not work for me. And yet I thought there was the only way, because I had such a strong background of it. And
did you go back to Catholic Mass?
Oh, absolutely. And then couldn't stand being there.
Okay, and then why did 12-step seem to require it? That's what I'm
11 steps, sought through if you're going to follow it, sought through prayer and meditation to improve your conscious contact. You eventually become aware that you've got no conscious contact. And regardless of all the books that we read, daily readers that we have for AA, I can read them, but they didn't mean anything to me. I kept fighting against I have to go back to the church. And I did not want to go back to the church. As Dee said a little earlier, I was addicted to my ego. My ego kept telling me, yeah, you don't want to go there.
So
I didn't know I was addicted to my ego. That's one of the things I found out in the course.
And how long did you stay in the Catholic Church after you went back?
Oh, months. And then I decided to be a Buddhist. And I tried that for months, and that didn't exactly, I knew I would never really be a Buddhist, although I did like a lot of what I read there.
Yes.
And then I joined a congregational church, not Catholic. And it was very
non-denominational.
No, not it was congregational. It was a denomination,
I see.
but it's a lot less rules and regulations than the Catholic Church. So I fit in there better, but I realized it's still only social. It is not improving my contact with God. And that kept bothering me until finally my friend Pat, who's not here tonight, but I was her sponsor, and she kept saying to me, let's try Course in Miracles.
Wow.
And so she's the one that finally got me into it.
Gotcha.
And that's another thing I wanted to say about the AA program. I don't think there's a line in any of the books that don't start with the word we or us.
Yeah.
Hardly at all. So that was one thing that when I did come into the course, I didn't have such a hard time understanding I was part of all of us.
You mean because of its use of masculine pronouns all the time?
All the time. And you don't realize how important that is to your thinking as you're reading.
But AA did, because they said we.
Right. But I was still stuck on, had to go to mass and I had to do things, and I had broken the laws, and I was excommunicated from the church. I was a mess, Catholic wise.
I never met anyone excommunicated from the church, so now
now you have. You probably do, but
I
don't
made
realize
light of it, but that's from my ignorance. Forgive
no,
me.
not really. A lot of people aren't aware. If you're Catholic and you get married in the church, and you get divorced and you get remarried.
Yes, I've heard that.
You're automatically excommunicated, and that was my deal. I was excommunicated.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I didn't get any letter from the Pope or anything.
Thanks for letting me know. Okay.
But you got the message.
But I knew, that I had all those years of Catholic schooling, 12 years, and my 4 years in high school, I worked 7 days a week, 6 hours a day in the rectory in my parish, which is where the priests live, waiting on the priest and answering the telephone and, doing a lot of work. Yeah. It was a very formative time for me between 13 and 17 to be, and my father was missing, and or he was out, as we call it. He was in the weeds. I knew who he was, and he'd come home once in a while to dry out, but he was beyond help, alcoholic almost. And so I relied on those priests as sort of father figures. And they were representative of all that teaching that I had, that anything other than Catholicism is wrong. No. And so therefore I was stuck.
Yeah. Good insights, good discussion, everyone. And I'm certainly learning a lot as we go through 12 steps, and just to get it out there. I don't know much about Judaism either. So Dee, I need you to help me sometimes.
Sure. We're celebrating tonight. Today is the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, and I'm with you. And I'm with you all.
Kippur?
Yep.
Oh, okay. But boy, anything you like to share going forward, please help a brother out, okay?
Sure. I guess I was probably excommunicated too, being an ACIM and a Jewish person.
Yeah.
So it wasn't embraced very well with the family.
I understand, but then I go back, Marianne Williamson introduced me to the course, and I remember her being Jewish, and so I'd just like to get your take one day on A Course in Miracles from that Jewish perspective.
Sure.
So, yeah, I was just going to say we made it to page 11.
Mm-hmm.
So, second paragraph of page 11 is, I think, where we'll stop. I had a good time. I thought this was valuable. Did you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm really enjoying this.
Well,
Me
you know,
too.
it
It's
just-
all. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it just ties everything together. You know, it just ties that no matter what teaching you're in, and no matter where you are, the main purpose is to move forward to the oneness.
Yeah. I just had a brainstorm earlier today. You know how when I upload the videos, there's a description place where you type in the description, and it said something like take deep dives into A Course in Miracles. And tonight I updated it to explore, excuse me, explore our world through A Course in Miracles ACIM perspective. And it'll say join ACIM Talks. What do you think?
Nice.
yeah, good.
Explore our world through an ACIM perspective. So these are little thoughts that run through my head, like I was in the bedroom and I had to come and pull up the computer and stick it in there before I forgot. Does stuff like that happen to you, or you'll think of something and say, oh man, what was that I thought of before?
Mhm.
Well, I discovered at my age, I need to write it down right quick while I'm thinking of it, or it's going to be a problem
It's
later.
gone. It's gone.
Yeah. Anyhow, ladies, I appreciate your being here. You can pay me with a smile on your way out the door here tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you for being in relationship with me. We make a lot of good things happen, don't we?
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So love, everyone, and
Namaste.
have a great week coming up. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.